In this tutorial, we're going to be going over some of the functions found in the C string library. So we've included these two libraries before, but the new one is the string.h file, and this includes a lot of functions for working with strings. The two functions that we're going to go over in this tutorial are the function to determine a string's length, and another function that will tell you if two strings are equal to one another. Alright, so to make this a little bit more interesting, we're going to count the number of characters in a string that the user inputs. So it's called the string str, and they can enter a maximum of 128 characters. Alright, so now let's read in from the terminal 128 characters into str, and from standard input. Alright, so we've read the characters in. Now we need to print out the length of the string. And the function is called strlen, stands for string length. And all you do is you pass it the name of the string, and it returns an integer. So we can print out the integer, and all we have to do is string length, strlen, of the string in question. Alright, so this should work, but first let's just print out what they should do. Please enter a string. I'll count its characters. There we go. And let's enter a new line so they can enter the string on the next line down. And then let's say here, the string has %i characters. Alrighty. So let's run this here. And please enter a string. I'll count its characters. I know you've seen this string enough times already, but let's give it one more go. And it has 14 characters. And if we count the characters, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 characters. And this gave us 14 characters, which is the reason why it gave us 14 characters is because when we hit enter, it also copies the new line character into the string. So this string in reality is these 13 characters and then the new line character. And I believe I already showed you several tutorials ago how to get rid of that new line character from the string. Alright, so this will work for any string. It'll count its characters. Next, let's have the user enter two strings, and we'll test to see if the two strings are equal to one another. So let's change this a little bit. There we go. And now we need string 1 and string 2. Oh, one thing that I've been doing in this tutorial a couple times, if you're using Notepad++, Control D duplicates the current line. So if I hit Control D, it duplicates it. And that can be a lot faster than using copy and paste to copy a line. So I'm going to duplicate this line, and I'm going to read into string 1 and string 2. Alrighty, so we've created our strings here. We've asked them to input two strings, and now we have read information into both strings. Alrighty, so here we have to make a small change. Of course, we're going to want to output different information. We're going to want to do this. We're going to have an if statement, and this is going to be if they're equal. We're going to print out if they're equal. Otherwise, we'll print out they're not equal. Never would have guessed that one. Alright, and the function that tests to see if two strings are equal is called string compare. And all these functions shorten everything they can, so it's strcmp, string compare. It accepts two arguments, and we'll give it string 1 and string 2. And this returns an integer. it's going to return 0 if they are equal to one another. And it has an interesting algorithm to determine whether they are, if it's not equal. If they're not equal, the number will either be greater than 0 or less than 0. And you can there's actually a way in C to compare strings to test if they're greater than or smaller than another string. And it actually does it by comparing the integer values of the characters. So it compares each character in each string one at a time. And if one of the characters in one string is greater than the character at the same place in the other string, it's going to say that this string is greater than the other string. And if it's less than, it'll say less than. And this is actually useful for creating some string sorting functions. For example, to sort strings from alphabetically from low to high. So because of that, 0 means that the strings are equal. And we know that 0 is false. So this will, of course, run at the wrong time. So to switch the truth value of this, we can either use if the comparison is equal to 0, which means that the strings are equal, or we can use the shorter exclamation point, which will reverse that 0 to a 1. And so this will run only if they're equal, and this will run if they're not equal. All right, so let's test this. And we'll run it. Please two strings, and I'll test them for equality. All right, so let's enter one string, testing 1, 2, 3, and testing 1, 2, 3 with a space between them. And they're not equal. Let's test it again, see if they are equal. I'll enter my name, and I'll enter it again. And they are equal. Alright, so in this tutorial we have given you the introduction to the string library with two of the functions, the one for getting the length of a string, or the number of characters in it, and the other one that will compare two strings to test to see if they're equal. They'll work with any strings, and that's, I think, about it. I hope that you've learned something, and I'll see you again in the next tutorial.